Hi, Jamie Cowen here to talk to you today about to meet or not to meet. That is the question. Look, I was a congregational leader for 22 years. I know how important meeting regularly as a congregation is. Right? One of the congregation's goals is to build community, and you can't have community without being together. That's one of the things that makes the COVID experience so challenging. In Judaism, commonly following a service, there's what's called an Oneg Shabbat, meaning the light of the Sabbath. Typically, it's a nash consisting of veggies, bagels, and sweets. Because our only main service was Saturday morning, we turned the Oneg into essentially a potluck lunch. This enhanced community, since during a religious service, people generally are not talking among themselves, at least we hope not. The experience with the Oneg after the service was great. In Israel, we attend a congregation where there's a cafe open following the service. Most of the congregation doesn't attend, but many do, including us, and it's the way we've gotten to bond with other people. Sadly, the last time that we were there was in March. We actually signed up for a community Passover Seder scheduled in April, but it was canceled. Now we watch Saturday services on YouTube, but it's not the same. Recently, the congregation started a virtual home groups, which we participate in, and those have been great. But honestly, it's a lonely time. Israel is under a stricter lockdown than most in the United States. Whereas in the U.S., most religious services are Christian in nature. In Israel, they're Jewish, and the most seriously religious are the ultra-Orthodox. Most of the men attend religious schools called yeshivot, or full-time. Sadly, this community has the highest COVID infection rates in the country because of their constant meetings, and their infections spread to other communities. Consequently, there's a lot of resentment towards the ultra-Orthodox because their religious political parties demand special treatment with respect to much of Israeli society, and they seek to impose their strict religious requirements on others. The country becomes further enraged when the ultra-Orthodox fail to abide by public health restrictions and guidelines that endanger others. Now that causes me to turn to news of several congregations and religious events in the United States who gather while ignoring public health guidelines and sometimes blatantly violate the law by coming together in large numbers. A friend of mine recently posted on Facebook a video of a huge worship concert that he attended where thousands were bunched together singing, dancing, worshiping, and without masks. Honestly, I was disgusted and appalled. This event occurred only about 2 weeks after a gathering on the White House lawn where Judge Amy Coney Barrett was introduced to 100 or more folks, few wearing masks. The event since has been deemed a super spreader where many became infected with COVID, including some well-known pastors. As I've shared in numerous videos, I'm shocked at how so many evangelical leaders publicly support President Trump's re-election despite his ungodly speech, behavior, and divisiveness. I've bemoaned the contamination of the gospel by the amalgamation of faith, conservative politics, and the Republican Party. But violating public health guidelines and sometimes laws to assert one's religious freedoms by gathering in large, unprotected venues makes me question whether these leaders and people even read the Bible, much less follow its practices. Come on now. Love your neighbor as yourself is not some flighty theological principle. We're talking basics here. We're in the midst of a pandemic. Over 200,000 have died in the United States, including Christian leaders, some of whom I knew. It's absolutely proven that COVID is transmitted by droplets from an infected person. All public health personnel agree that masks and social distancing dramatically lessen transmission. Remember Jesus' stern words, quote, "Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. Many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy in your name, and in your name drive out demons, and in your name perform many miracles? Then I will tell them plainly, I never knew you. Away from me, you evildoers." Unquote. All I can say is that blatantly ignoring public health guidelines in the name of religious freedom is just evil. You may be offended by this, and I hope so. It's time to change. This behavior doesn't glorify God. It makes a mockery of God. I'm all for taking a stand for Yeshua. Look, I was cut off from my parents for almost 30 years for my faith. My wife and I were jailed in Israel for our faith. I left a promising political career to enter the ministry because of my faith. There are many in countries like China, Iran, Nigeria, Syria, and others who have lost their lives because of their faith. But American Christians claiming persecution because they can't meet in super spreading events? What's wrong with this picture? Now, I know there are many congregations, maybe even most, that have gone to great lengths to protect the congregations by limiting numbers, social distancing, and mask wearing. Good for them. This is the right way. Yet there are tons of ways of expressing our faith outside of communal worship events, such as volunteering in hospitals, working in soup kitchens, carefully visiting the elderly, supporting needy families, all in the name of Jesus. These honor God. These proclaim the name of Yeshua. These are the things that Yeshua talked about when he said, quote, "I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. Whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did for me." Unquote. You see, self-sacrifice is the Jesus way, not claiming one's rights. One of the New Testament's classic and most repeated verses that I learned very early on is where Jesus said, quote, "If you want to come after me, you must deny yourself, pick up your cross, and follow me." Unquote. The foundation of being a Yeshua follower is to put others before yourself. Demanding the right to gather in large numbers without any protections is the opposite of putting others before yourself. It is the height of arrogance, selfishness, and hypocrisy. Come on, folks. We can be better than this. We can showcase the love of God by sacrificing our own desires and serving others. This is the Yeshua way. Thank you, and see you next time.